1. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the internet, welcome to Voices Agora, episode number 14.
Wow.
I'm your host, Another Notch, and joining me as always as my soon-to-be brother-in-law, Shane Lynch.
Potentially.
Shane Lynch, how are you, my friend?
I am good, man. I just had a great stream.
Did you?
I had a game that went 90-something minutes.
Nice.
And we ended the game. So we killed 2 of them.
Right.
And we right inhibitor was already down from a previous push. And we ran across the map, and all of us wanted to end the friggin' game, because this was a 90-minute game. It's going on forever. And we get to the core, and all 4 of us die, and the core is at 1%. And I'm literally losing my mind. Like, on my stream, I'm just losing my mind that we haven't won. And there was 4 people, and we all died under the core. The 4 people we had pushing the core.
Yeah.
And a leftover Iggy turret kills the core.
Yes. How does that happen?
It was in... I don't know, because he was dead, and aren't they supposed to deactivate?
They're supposed to... Well, they deactivate after he's dead, but it takes like 2 or 3 seconds.
It was like...
So it's just enough damage.
Like of fire.
And it died.
Oh my god, dude.
I saw the Grux mid lane just lollygagging mid lane.
Yeah, that...
It's like, yeah, this Grux is super useful. But it's patch 2.9, and you said 90-minute game. As soon as we jump into the news here, we're going to talk about what patch 0.29 has done to match length, because it's done some things to match length. But how has your week in Paragon been, my friend?
It's great, man. Overall, before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of things, overall, I really like this patch a lot.
Oh god, it's so much fun.
I really like this patch.
Yeah.
The positives far outweigh the negatives.
Yeah. I've been telling people that the game is not balanced, but this is the most balanced the game has felt.
There's still a lot of balancing to do.
Right.
I mean, Polari.
Right.
You can just say like, is the game balanced? And then just your counter argument is Polari.
You could even say Gideon to a degree.
Gideon's definitely better now, but he's still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, the patch is good. We're also going to a little later in the show going to speculate about the new hero coming out, and that will be our 21st hero,
which looks amazing.
I think we should touch on how the meta has changed a little bit as well. How it's no longer so ranger oriented, at least from the games we've seen in Paragon Masters and Agora's Rising.
Right.
How triple ranger seems to be very not as strong, and we're seeing other compositions show up and really have a good showing in the competitive level.
Yeah, I just turned Shane up. Chat, let me know if he's better.
I can turn myself up here.
He's also going to turn himself up here.
Just the tiniest bit. Tiniest bit. Should be good.
You sound beautiful in my ears.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like this has been a step in the right direction from when you look at 0.28 to the people talking about 0.29, much better reviews. People are excited again about Paragon, which is fantastic. And you mentioned Paragon Masters. I want to talk briefly about Tuesday night's games with Team Mayhem versus Triangle Formation.
Oh, man. So
those of you that are listening, if you've not caught any of the Paragon Masters is similar to what Agora's Rising is. It's a Paragon competitive. It's a tournament for Paragon. Mm-hmm. And Agora's Rising we do bi-weekly. Well, we got approached, and a group of people were group of people said, hey, we love what you and Shane are doing. We want you guys to join us with Paragon Masters. We want to use Agora's Rising and find our players for Paragon Masters. This will be a month-long round-robin event. So we hit the semifinals. And Tuesday was patch day. 0.29 came out on Tuesday. And we have had a team, Triangle Formation, who have played Triple Rangers and just excelled at Triple Rangers.
I think once or twice they ran a dual ranger triple fighter
Yes,
composition.
yes.
Once or twice. But for the most part, if they can get their hands on triple ranger, that's what
They're
run.
going to do it, and they are fantastic at it. It's silly to watch because they're just so good.
Yeah.
But we saw some games on Tuesday. Now this is patch day. Most games when they do tournaments, when they do anything like this, they're not just on live servers. They'll play on the previous patch. Like if it's a real esport, Heroes of the Storm, Dota, League, all of these games, they're not just gonna be like, hey, Tuesday a patch came out, let's play a tournament game and see how everybody can adjust. And we saw Triangle Formation struggle game number 1. A team
struggle to the point where they dropped a game for the first time in Paragon Masters.
Yeah.
Against a composition that I think not only you and I, Notch, but everyone else who was watching dismissed immediately from Team Mayhem. Like, I'm not kidding. When I saw the composition, I was like, I guess Mayhem doesn't think they can win. Because why would they be running this composition? Like,
which it was Greystone. It was Chimera, which who we're going to talk about.
Ooh.
It was Muriel.
Hello.
Team. And it was Grux.
Greystone, Muriel.
Greystone, Muriel, Chimera, and Grux, right?
And Murdoch.
And Murdoch.
The only ranger. So one
only
ranger,
ranger,
three ranger, one ranger, one ranger, three rangers.
One ranger,
Only
three rangers.
3 fighters. Where 2 fighters being more damage oriented, and obviously Greystone is the king of absorbing damage because he can die twice. And then the hardest support we have in the game in Muriel.
Yes.
I mean hardest by that she's like a hyper support. Like Decker can do damage. And she has a lot of utility. Muriel is mostly just like raw supporting power with maybe a little bit of a speed boost and the slow as well.
Yeah. But we saw them come out in game number 1. It went 55 minutes? 55 minutes long.
58 minutes, something like that. Almost an hour, yeah.
And they were able to... Team Mayhem was actually able to take a game. But then, of course, we saw Triangle Formation come back. Yep. They adjusted. They played not as aggressive as we're used to seeing, but they ended up winning. But I have to say, watching those games, those were some of the most fun Paragon games.
Oh, man, especially game number 1.
Oh, my God. They were just so much fun to watch and cast.
Yeah. It was really interesting because... obviously, that composition we're talking about, Mayhem ran the same composition they ran in game 1. They ran in game 3,
right?
And then game number 2, they ran a basically different variation of it. I don't remember what it was.
They didn't have Greystone.
Did they have a Richter? I think they had a Richter.
No, they didn't have Greystone. They had Rampage, I thought.
That's right. Something like, I don't quite remember. It was same theme, same idea. The strategy was the same. It was Triple Ranger plus only one. It was Triple Fighter with only 1 Ranger.
Right.
And the thing about that composition, because we also saw SOA run literally the exact same thing
on Thursday.
And SOA, I think a lot of people would agree, are a better team than Mayhem.
Right.
At least results-wise. Objectively, they are a better team than Mayhem, at least the past month or so. And whether they already knew about this composition or they saw what Mayhem did and were like, we're going to do that, they ran the exact same thing. And in both instances, the teams... It's an early game composition, right? Like, you expect that team, especially facing a Triple Ranger composition, which we'll talk about how Rangers' early game is now much diminished. We'll talk about that later on in the show.
Yeah.
That they need to win the early game.
Yeah.
Like, not go even. They need to be ahead in the first 15, 20 minutes of the game.
Right.
And then after that, and that's what would happen. The teams would do that, and then they would struggle to end. And I think the problem is they couldn't push structures because they only had 1 Ranger.
Right.
Right? Now, is that an okay natural weakness of that composition, that they have really good early game, they're really good at team fighting, but they get the kills, but they can't get objectives? Or is that a balance problem? That's the question I've been asking myself since we've seen those games. Is this a balance problem, or is that supposed to be what's happening? Where if you run a comp with only 1 Ranger and no casters, only 1 ranged hero,
right?
I guess you could say Muriel was as well. You will have a hard time pushing. Or is it simply Rangers are so much better at pushing than anyone else that maybe the other classes need a help with pushing?
Right.
That's the question I'm asking myself. But we'll continue to speculate on that further once we get a little more into the patch notes and things like that.
Which I just wanted to bring up the Paragon Masters. The finals are coming out on the 2nd. That is this Tuesday coming up, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Twitch.tv/the Paragon Masters. Myself and Shane will be casting and analytics. We'll also be joined by our last guest that was on the show.
Did you hear that?
I heard the bang. Is that what we're talking about? The bang? You have a ghost. Oh.
And I don't have any cat pictures open. I don't know what that was.
Joined by Toaster Loading, who was the last guest on the show. It's going to be an absolutely incredible time, but we're going to jump. I want to jump right into the patch notes, actually. Now, well, let's do this because we only have a minute to talk. We don't know much about her. Yeah. I lied. We're going to talk about the new hero. We're going to talk about the Fae, not just Fae, ladies and gentlemen. The Fae. She's an entity who channels nature's power in Agora. They will be doing a dev live stream on Monday, the 1st, and she will, of course, be playable on Tuesday, August 2nd, every 3 weeks. The Fae is a support caster, energy damage, growth, intellect. They have never told us affinities this early. It's in the blog post.
Oh, they have confirmed affinities.
It's in the blog post. She is growth and intellect.
Oh, okay. I have intentionally not been saying anything.
I didn't even know.
People have been asking me, like, what do you know about the hero? I'm like, I'm not allowed to talk about it. Yes, guys. She's growth intellect, which means she basically has access to
the best
some of the,
cards.
like, what's really cool is not only are growth intellect arguably, I think growth intellect and order are the best affinities right now. I don't think anyone's going to argue against that.
No, I don't think we can.
But having the variety, not only does she have a lot of good cards, she has a variety within builds, right? Like you can build her damage-esque with the growth damage mitigation cards that also give you energy damage, or you could do a mix of both, right? With the cooldown, the quantum casings, and the etherweave meshes. So the build potential on her, really, really cool that she's both growth and intellect. And of course, she has access to shockwave. That's a big one right there. She has it's another shockwave carrier, and I think, you know, I since she is like a caster support, kind of like a gadget, I think she's naturally going to be a go-to hero when it comes to, hey, we need a shockwave carrier, we can pick up that hero.
Yeah, I am excited to actually see this hero. She's got a lot of I don't like healers. I'm not a huge fan of like Healy type classes.
Yeah, we've always been open about that. Yeah, we've talked about that many times.
So I'm glad we have another support that's coming to the game that's more of a utility. She's got an AoE damage over time. Her Bramble Patch creates a line of thorny brambles that can slow multiple heroes. Harvest Nettles refunds mana on successful hit, while her ultimate, Fly Trap, summons a gargantuan plant that drags you in and applies serious damage.
Serious damage.
Those are not my words. Those are the words of this blog post. These are Mr. Superville's words.
I really like this, but she sounds like much more like a Decker or a Gadget than she is a Muriel. I've had a chance to play her, and she was. I know it's making that noise now.
What is it? It's your dog's tail.
He just got a bath. He just got a bath. And and my dog gave me sorry, my roommate came in the room. And he was doing a bath and he kept shaking. Like, you know, dogs shake after you take a bath with them. And his tail, when he did that, the tail was hitting the wall, and I had no idea. Okay.
That's fantastic.
Anyway, I got to play her. She was a lot of fun. And I think she's going to, assuming that there's no balance changes on Tuesday, which they haven't said any. Usually when there's a balance patch coming out, they notify us ahead of time.
Yeah,
one exception, and that was 0.28.
Right. Which surprised us on a Thursday.
Yes, exactly. But I think she's going to be good, man. I mean, just based off of her kit, her ultimate, and all that stuff, I think she's going to be good. Pardon me, just a moment.
I've lost this webcam. He'll be back. But yeah, she looks like a lot of fun. I want to know, and Mud may know the answer to this. Mud is in chat. She was at one of the dev live streams. I believe it was for Richter, actually, when Mud actually got to go to the live stream. I don't know if she had a chance to play her there, if she had her art. But if you watch the video for this particular...
Sorry. My dog is just like being a little asshole right now. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, we're good.
if you watch the video, and when she throws abilities and they hit the wall, the flowers pop up. Does that actually happen in game, or is that just an animation for the video?
Repeat the question.
So when she throws abilities, and she misses her basic attack, it hits the wall behind Twin Blast, and little flowers sprout. Does that happen, or is that just for the video?
I mean, Epic has all like Epic when it visually. Epic, I think, is making the most polished game of all time. Like visually, this game is gonna be so polished. So that wouldn't surprise me. That's like those sort of really cool embellishments that they do.
Yeah.
Like with Richter's
the water.
electrical field.
Yeah.
And how when it's in the water it boils. Like they go to such great lengths in an early access game to provide that polished next level high fidelity stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised at all, and that's really, really cool. If I honestly don't remember, I wasn't paying that much attention.
I do want to point out that when I first saw her, I instantly thought Fern Gully.
Yes.
Instantly thought Fern Gully. Like, remember at the end of Fern Gully where the fairy starts to fly?
Don't spoil the movie.
If you haven't seen Fern Gully, it's been 30 years. You'll get over it. I'm bad when the fairy starts to fly away and the flowers blossom behind her, I want that so bad in this game. That would be the coolest thing ever. Anyways, so that is Faye. We'll get her August 2nd. We will get her.
I think she's gonna be good.
I
think she's gonna be a. People have been asking for supports.
This is a support. I don't play supports, but I'm going to play the crap out of her. She sounds like a lot of fun.
And I think she's going to be much more of a damage support than she's going to be much more like Gadget, where it's a damage support with some utility, than a like a Decker, which is like a utility support, right? Where I provide slows and stuns. Obviously, her ultimate is like a big AoE, like pull in sort of thing, like black hole sort of thing, and does a lot of damage. But I think that's the role we're going to see her. I wouldn't be surprised to see, like, I mean, there's a lot, obviously with an ultimate like that, there's always a lot of wombo combo potential.
Right.
But this game already has an insane amount of wombo combo potential. But I think she's going to be a mainstay, man. I really, really do. Especially how we've already seen how melee-centric compositions are starting to become the new trend for competitive teams.
Brambles is going to be huge.
When you have a snare like that, and you also have that ultimate, which basically just pulls people in, it's not like getting ready to sit in the middle of them. It's ranged.
It's pretty.
I think she's going to be a thorn in the side of all the fighters.
You see what he did there? Because flowers, thorns. Patch 0.29, ladies and gentlemen, hit Agora on Tuesday. If you've been playing the game, you've noticed a lot of changes. The first change, of course, is the health of Rangers. The health of Rangers has been dropped from 400 to 380 per level. Instead of getting 100, they only get 85 health, which is theirs. We saw damage scalings as well. They now do less damage early game. We saw armor become more useful. We saw some caster changes as well. The caster balance changes were we increased the basic attack damage from 1 to 3.
It was a nerf. I mean, it was a buff.
It was a thing. They did a thing.
It was a buff.
They did a thing there.
Was it enough to make them the same level as fighters and rangers?
No.
Yeah, I think with the exception of like Iggy.
Right.
And we still do see howitzers every now and then, but they're still the casters are still not strong enough to where they are a mainstay within compositions. They're more of an afterthought. They're more of a, oh hey, we could run howitzer here and it might be good.
Right.
As opposed to with rangers and fighters, it's like, well, we could get Grux or Rampage or Richter or Steel or Chimera or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I do think this patch was a step in the right direction for casters. Gadget is a pain in the butt right now. She's absolutely absurd. I do feel like Iggy, Gadget, and Howitzer could become mainstays in a lot of people's rosters. Gideon still feels very lacking to me. He still feels very weak. But overall, I feel like casters are taking a step in the right direction.
Agreed.
Nin, he's actually in our chat here. I sent out a tweet at Voices of Agora, and I asked, what did you guys think of patch 0.29? Because I want to know what people's thoughts are. And Nino actually says, a minuscule step in the right direction. Casters are still far from viable. AA changes didn't do much for casters. I agree with that. The auto attack change really doesn't do much. It makes last hitting a little bit easier, but if you have heroes like Gideon, uh, the Iggy and Scorch, you just drop a turret. Like, let's be honest here. They they definitely need some work. I still feel casters are not in the greatest of places. But what we saw was, and I said this at the beginning, I feel like Paragon is the most balanced it's been. It's not balanced. It's still far from balanced, but it is the most balanced the game has been. We take a look at Rangers, for example, which at about 20 card points became a huge hindrance, and it was pretty much... It was very hard to 1v1 them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they made the card stat changes, reduced value of damage cards of a baseline from 7.5 to 6.5, value of attack speed cards from 6.5 to 5.5, and this is the huge one, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, tell me, to say it nice and slowly and smooth for my ears. Please, let me hear it.
They reduced the value of lifesteal from a baseline of 0.04 to 0.25. Oh my. They nerfed lifesteal. Not into oblivion.
God.
But they nerfed lifesteal. They changed lifesteal.
Lord, I have been such a lobbyist for that change for so long. I thought lifesteal was way too snowbally. There's a certain point where it just... There's a certain point where something is so strong that it's bad for the game. I think lifesteal was just like crits were. When early access first came out, when everyone had like 30% crit and was critting for like 1100 damage, you could literally get 2 or 3 shotted in the end game. Lifesteal was the same way, just where if you had lifesteal and your opponent didn't, you win. Yeah, like you just win that 1v1, assuming you don't miss all of your autos.
I'm gonna go ahead.
It just I didn't like it, as opposed to a means of sustain and whatnot. Which is what it was. What was its intended purpose? Was it for to be a means of sustain for pushes on creep and things like that? It was just a, hey, I'm literally doing like 50% of the damage I'm doing is healing me, and it was ridiculous. And I love this change, and I'm glad that they did it. Overall, just continually, just strong work from Epic so far on making those adjustments that I think are necessary and important.
I'm going to say this about lifesteal, just like I said about crit, it is not useless.
No,
lifesteal is not useless.
Not
just
at all.
like crit is not useless. I'm not going to build 40% crit like I used to. I'm not going to build 35% lifesteal, whatever the heck you were building with lifesteal. It is not useless. It is still a stat that is very good, and it can help you keeps that sustain up in lane and keep you from backing. I'm not going to throw 50 points into lifesteal anymore like I did before. All it does is make me adjust my build a little bit more. Health is more important, armor is more important, but lifesteal is not useless.
Yeah.
And people need to stop saying that. They just jump the gun. They don't have time to test.
That's the typical. Only people are saying that are the outspoken minority on your social media platforms like Reddit and things like that. That's just the nature of those platforms. I think most people playing the game thought that was a necessary and good
it was
change.
It was a great change. The changes to lifesteal and the changes to crit are absolutely fantastic. I like it for this reason alone, is it's not going to impact a fight between 2 Rangers or somebody else. It's if I win that fight.
I mean, it can,
but
only,
not like
only
it did.
by a little small margin. Not like, I'm at 90% HP and you died, even though you landed all of your auto attacks and I hit 75% of them. But again, I lifesteal, you didn't.
Right, but now I don't have to back. I can turn around and I can continue to shoot a minion wave. And I can regain health. And we're going to see it in Paragon Masters. We're going to still see lifesteal in Agora's Rising. I will put money on it that the best players in the game will still be using lifesteal. They're not going to be using as much as they were.
It's interesting.
But it will still be there.
Right now, I know a lot of people are, and chat is making the same sentiment, that the means of sustain is now transitioning to health regen, which I'm okay with that. That's as a means of sustain, health if you are more than likely not going to lose or win a team fight or lose or win a 1v1 or small skirmish because you did or did not have health regen. Yes, there's going to be occasions where you had like 20 HP left over and that 20 HP came from that health regen you got. Like, yeah, that's going to happen. but it's not this huge margin where it's like, haha, I have all the health regen and you don't, so I win almost by default.
Who ran health regen in Paragon Masters? Pixel.
Pixel.
Pixel ran
On
it.
a SOA.
Yeah.
Right? Or he's on SOA.
He was
right?
on Murdoch. Yeah, and he ran it on his Murdoch.
Yeah.
And he ran health regen.
And at first I was like, what the heck, is he trolling us? But then I started to see, I started watching Imsco stream. Imsco's doing it. And other people here are saying that as far as means of sustain, health regen might be a little bit more efficient.
Yeah.
When you do the math and things like that.
Again,
I'm okay with that. Then that means there's variety. You can go lifesteal, you can go health regen.
And the nice thing I like to see is we're
opening up variety, or what they said in the post. I love this phrase, what they used. Stat tension. Tension between each stats. You want to go, okay, well, I don't want to go too overboard on this side. I don't want to go overboard on that. You kind of have to have a very smart intention. You have to have an intention and an idea going into your build. You can't just blasé go, I'm going to go damage and lifesteal and win the game. There's much more to it than that. I think it opened up a lot more variety and potential for people to try out new things, and I think that's really, really cool. I hope that, you know, it doesn't get watered down. It's like, oh, everyone's using health regen or something like that. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I see people using
because
armor or health instead of those, where they're building, you know, more armor and they're building more health instead of building life zone regen, and I am okay with that. It's if you want to build armor and health instead of lifesteal, then do it, because it works now. You now don't have to be like before. If you didn't build crit, you would lose every team fight, and then if you didn't build attack speed, damage, and lifesteal, you would lose. That's because they were better than you. They had better cards than you, and that was it. Right. But now there's diversity in these builds. Now we can see a little bit more armor and health instead of just this pure damage. I like most of the changes that they made with 0.29. I feel like. Yeah. Again, the game is not balanced, but it's the most balanced it's been.
I mean, let's touch on that specifically as it pertains to hero balance, like balance within each heroes. Heroes we're starting to see, and anecdotally, I would imagine their win rates are going up. Don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if the win rates of the following heroes have gone up significantly since the patch. Greystone.
Oh man, Greystone.
Muriel.
Yep.
And the big one,
Chimera.
You know I was going to say it, couldn't even get the words in my mouth. Chimera. Because not only did he get that indirect buff, because obviously all rangers got nerfed and damage got nerfed, so that means fighters got an indirect buff, right?
Right.
Which fighters were already really, really strong. Chimera was already like good. He wasn't great. He wasn't, you know, the 0.28 Rampage Steel Grux.
Right.
But he was still good. Like you could run him in a pub game and have success with him. Now he is man. Have we discussed the buffs directly to Chimera yet? I don't remember. We haven't.
We have not. I was going to talk. I'll talk about it, and we'll go back to the cards. Do you have the notes up in front of you? I can scroll down.
I know it off the top of my head, man.
Go for it.
His leap. They reduced the cooldown on that, I believe, by a second each level. So that's actually
almost 3 seconds each level.
Guys, that doesn't sound like a lot, but in the midst of a team fight, that's a really big deal. That's the difference between you securing a kill and not securing a kill.
Yeah.
Like 3 seconds, that's a big. I mean, if you think about it, what was it, 20 seconds before?
20 seconds at max, and now it's down to 17 seconds. So it's 20, 19, 18, 17, 2, 17, 16, 15, 14.
The big one was they nerfed the scaling on his ultimate. It was 1.5. They nerfed it to a flat 1, which is much more reasonable. What 1.5 means, for every point of damage, the damage on his ultimate was going up by 1.5, which is insane.
Right.
I think it was the highest scaling ability in the game. I'm fairly certain about that. But now they nerfed it to a 1, which is much more in line with a lot of other abilities. They nerfed that, right? They sent it to 1 scaling.
Right.
And then they, at level 1, without any physical damage, it does 350 damage.
320.
320 damage.
Still a ton.
Which is a lot. It's 90% of a ranger's health at level 1. And how much health do they gain every level? 80?
They gain 85 level of health.
So
every
85
level.
times 5 plus 380 is how much health a ranger has. So that's...
You're taking literally 75% of a caster's health away.
That's like 2/3 to 3/4 of your health just by 1 ultimate. It's insane.
Now, people are saying he's OP. People are saying Chimera is OP.
I don't think he's OP. He falls off late game hard.
He falls off so hard late game. But all fighters fall off late game.
Yes, they do.
It's not just Chimera. Grux falls off late game. I haven't seen a lot of Fang Mao because Chimera is
their abilities don't, but their damage does.
Yes. So he does fall off late game. I feel like his early game changes have made him very viable when it comes to, especially with the changes to rangers and casters picking up those kills and jungling effectively.
Cursor's on my microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me move that. I do feel like he is a very strong hero, but when rangers start coming online, he definitely falls off and he has a little bit more trouble. And a good ranger, a knockback, a move along from Murdoch, displacement from Grim, rocket dash with Twin Blast. And you just stay away from him, you're going to kill him because he is. Yes, that's 14 seconds with him out without him having a closing ability.
Yeah,
he will die because he's not going to hit you. His health regen is going to fall off, and he's going to have to start over. But if you're not saving those abilities after he leaps, you're doing it wrong, folks.
Yeah.
Another big change, of course. This is actually one of my favorite changes. Is the change of Devastating Blasts. They renamed it to Long Arm of the Law.
I'm in fear for my life.
Love it. I love the name change. It's lore. It's secret lore, folks.
Yep.
Secret lore. We also saw changes to
Murdoch
Rampage.
used to be the lead singer for Styx.
That is true. We also saw changes to Rampage. His Enrage, they reduced his health regen from 100, 175, 250, 250, 125, and a max of 200. And they reduced the duration from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. What this means is, at level 5, he's not going to be able to dive towers. At level 9, he can still dive towers. I've heard a lot of people say Rampage is worthless now. Abso-friggin-lutely not.
Still pretty good.
Not even a tiny bit worthless.
I think he's good.
I do think he's still pretty good. I feel like he still has a
dive.
place.
Here's the thing. At the top level, I think he's been replaced.
I do feel like he's been replaced at top level.
Because the main thing about Rampage was his early game strength. He was too good in the early game. He was good to the point where you would hit level 5, level 6, get like a flash fire piston with some minor strikes in it or something, and you would just dive a tower and kill a ranger under the tower, and it's just like it's brainless, it's mindless. Like there's very little counter to it.
Right.
Other than there being like 2 or 3 people under the tower, in which case, guess what? The Rampage isn't going to die at the tower then.
Yeah.
Which I guess you could say is a soft counter. Blah blah blah. Anyways, we won't get to that discussion.
They also changed Twin Blast.
But anyways, back to the. I made my point. I haven't made my point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I feel he's been replaced in the competitive level
by.
Well, let me say why first.
Oh, but God, I just want you to say bye, so I can laugh in people's faces.
This is how you tell a good story. You build tension with your audience.
I'm already tense. I'm tense as crap. Go.
I mean, maybe you're.
Stop it. Go.
Maybe your future sister-in-law can give you a shot. I don't know. The early game was dictated by a warrior, or a fighter rather, a tanky fighter, to get kills underneath towers, because then that opened up their ability to push towers. Because competitively, it's very difficult to push down a tower if you aren't able to get kills under the towers, which you really aren't, because your rangers don't come online. You don't do enough damage to burst someone down. So Rampage was the king of that, and that's why that's one of the reasons he was picked so much, is because he's the king of that. Steel was pretty good. Steel was and still is pretty good at it because of his ultimate and his knock-up, because we can go in, use his shield wall to mitigate damage as he uses his shield charge to get out of the tower. Steel's pretty good at that as well. What's up, Marty? Good to see you, man. Don't change. So Rampage isn't really able to do that as consistently anymore. He cannot dive towers early on as consistent anymore. He can still jump in there with his ultimate and then dive out, like use his ult, tank a couple shots, use his boulder, then jump out, but he can't just jump into it and kill someone.
Right.
So he's still able to do that. However, Greystone, he doesn't care if he dies under that tower, which is, I think, one of the reasons why we're seeing Greystone is he enables you to push, take away that defender's advantage, and get kills underneath the tower that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. There's only a few heroes in the game who can do that. Rampage is not as good at that anymore, and that's why Greystone has risen to popularity within the top players, because he's enabling teams to get kills under towers that they otherwise would not be able to get to. Other ones are still, I mean, the only really other ones are Steel, and you could say Grux just because Smash and Grab has such a huge range. And anyways, you're not really diving the tower, you're pulling them out of a tower.
I want to say Greystone. I've always thought Greystone has been a fun hero, but there was always heroes. He was in that category where like heroes just do it better. So why am I going to pick Greystone when just Rampage just does it better?
Right. I mean,
Um,
Rampage essentially had 2 lives with his ultimate.
Absolutely.
Like, essentially he did. That the health regen was so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Greystone, though, has come out of nowhere, and he is super fun to play. He is a super nuisance come late game. He just absorbs all of the damage depending on the way you build him. You can build him to actually deal damage and be kind of a hindrance. We saw him in Paragon Masters, and I was just dumbfounded by the high level of gameplay we saw out of him.
He's a simplistic hero, but he can be so impactful.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. At first impression, when someone comes to this game and sees that hero, they're probably like, "Oh, that's just like a starter hero. He's not going to be that good." But then you see what he can do in a coordinated environment, and you're like, "Oh, wow, he's actually like," because the way he scales with his damage, if you throw some damage items on him, he wrecks Rangers.
Yeah.
Like, he will wreck them just as bad as Rampage used to wreck them.
Right.
With his old ultimate. So
Another hero that got changes was the overpowered Twin Blast, who was the strongest ranger in the game.
Yeah.
They reduced his basic attack damage from 28 to 25, so I believe he hits just as hard as everyone else in the game now. Nitro, they reduced the duration from 6, 7, 8, 9 to 4 seconds at all levels.
Which that was the biggest thing about Twin Blast is he had built in a significant amount of card level attack speed in his kit, so he could just stack damage and he could get his attack speed on demand. So I think I like these changes. Epic more often than not has been very heavy-handed with their nerfs. This time around, they were very soft, they were very gentle, and I think they were all very reasonable and very well done. The Rampage, I mean, I love it, absolutely love it. Great job.
They also reduced the travel distance of his rocket blast, which was a big one. So those were the big nerfs. We saw some buffs. For example, we saw Fix, long armor of the law now correctly ignores the energy armor of an enemy rather than a flat 100. We saw, let's see, it was Grux. Extended the stun duration of 1 point from.
On my microphone again.
That's because that's where the window is behind it. I'm gonna put it in your nose.
Okay.
Extended the stun duration from 1.125 seconds to 0.75 seconds to prevent bad ability interactions. Some people are saying this is a huge buff.
I mean, half a second's a substantial time.
It is, but if you watch, we were playing a game the other day, and everybody was like, "Dude, I can't believe they're buffing him. I can't believe they're buffing him." I saw Grux smash and grab a Twin Blast before Twin Blast even touched the ground. The stun was already over, and he rocket dashed away and was back on the high ground.
That's actually true. A majority of the stun duration is just the movement of your character.
Exactly. It's basically so when you land in front of him, you land in front of him, and you don't have the chance to just get away from him.
Yeah.
It really wasn't a buff. I'd say it was more of a fix. Can we talk about Grim real quick?
Again, more reasonable nerfs, not heavy-handed. I think this is a very reasonable nerf.
Yes.
That was necessary because I don't think there was one person who was like, "Oh man, my favorite thing is when I would die and nothing I could do about it from the other lane."
GTFO can no longer be targeted on enemies that are not within line of sight.
So no more targeting through walls or through towers or through whatever. You have to actually physically be able to see them. It's still a really good ability. It's still guaranteed. It's somewhat guaranteed damage, assuming no one blocks it. Like, it's still one of the best abilities at killing people that who were otherwise not going to die, other than maybe long armor of the law. Except GTFO is much more guaranteed.
And GTFO was still
guaranteed. In the middle of a hectic team fight. It's very difficult for teams to recognize that and body block. It's going to happen, right? But still, a majority of the time, GTFO is going to secure you a kill.
And it still goes through terrain. The only difference is you now have to look at somebody for half a second before you can fire it. And then those are really the big changes. Those are really the big changes when it comes to heroes. We're going to talk about cards, and then we're going to talk about what we don't like with this patch, because there is something we don't like.
Yes.
And I'm going to cover it. I've seen it pop up in chat a few times, and it's bugging the crap out of me, and I'm sure it's bugging Shane as well. So we saw some major card readjustments and reworks. Shockwave no longer has the active where they knock you up. The new new active, it slows all enemies within 800 units by 250 movement speed for 2 seconds. The cooldown is reduced from 120 to 45 seconds, and it's now a 6-point card. So instead of knocking people up, you've got a negative 250 movement speed slow every 45 seconds. I've heard people say Shockwave is not good. Huh? Huh? Shockwave is still a great card, by the way. And fantastic changes. We also saw the reintroduction of Mad Spore Sash and Radiant Mantle. Both now deal energy damage. The adjusted damage is 15 plus player level. Passive damage auras do not stack, and it's not active while sprinting.
Can you give me a moment? Keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm going to just continue these card reworks. Do you, boo-boo. Blink Charm, no longer a 5-second cooldown after taking damage, and they increase the cooldown from 90 to 180 seconds. Trader's Touch, removed max passive requirement, lifesteal reduced from 2 to 1, Tempest Pearl, reduced move speed buff duration from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. Mending Bloom, Overflowing Gifts, cooldown reduced from 120 to 75. These are some of the big changes that they made. A lot of people were talking about how strong Beastmaster's Key and Stalker's Key were, so they actually made changes to those as well. The Beastmaster's Key, they removed the passive 50... Whoa. They removed the passive 50 damage bonus to jungle minions has been changed.
Love this.
To basic attack deals plus 15 bonus damage to jungle minions, which I just want to point out, by the way, guys, is like a 4 damage difference.
Yeah. It's not that. It's still good to have for junglers.
Yes.
But what I like is it took a card that was so good that if you didn't have it, it puts you at a disadvantage to your opponent who did have it.
Right.
Same thing with the Shockwave. I really like the adjustment to Shockwave. It's still an absurdly strong card.
Such a
and
good
I
card.
think in some instances it's actually better. In some instances it's actually better.
It's got a very large radius on it.
Yes.
It's able to help you secure kills, help your team secure kills. It's still a
again,
great card.
continuation of the trend of Epic making changes that I think not only were, again, reasonable changes, but the people have been talking about Shockwave, right? They're like, Shock's too good of a card. People have been talking about Beastmaster's card. Like, either you give it to everyone, like they did with like Blink Charm and stuff like that, how you hit a certain level and you get a card.
Right.
Like, just everyone gets it, or you need to make it to where it's not so strong that you are at a disadvantage because you don't have it.
And they also changed, 100%. They changed Stalker Key as well, which was 50% damage bonus to jungle minions. They changed it to basic attacks on jungle minions restore 8 health.
Mm-hmm. So the Stalker's Key had 4 points of lifesteal on it, which at level 1 was useless.
Right.
If you had the Beastmaster's Key, that 100 health of the Beastmaster's Key was way more helpful to you than 4 points of lifesteal, even if you are playing a Corruption hero.
Right.
So that just made it where you could you can throw that on a Grux, and he obviously can jungle a little bit more efficiently because maybe he won't have to back as much because he'll have more health.
But if I'm Grux, I'm going to pick up a Beastmaster's Key. I want that extra damage if I'm... That's me personally. I feel like the extra damage is more useful than Stalker's Key. This change confuses me. And and maybe somebody in chat has used it. If you're listening to the podcast and you've used this card, please let us know on the website at Voices of Agora on Twitter or Voices of Agora on Facebook. Bounty Stalker. They increased the costs from 4 points to 6.
Bounty Stalker is like the bunker of Paragon. Now, for those of you who don't understand that reference, back in Wings of Liberty, I think even into Heart of the Swarm, like every single patch there was a change to bunker. Like every single patch, bunker would get some sort of change, whether nerf or not. And like I feel like Bounty Stalker just like, how many times has that card's been adjusted? I want to say like 5 or 6 times.
Well, so this is now it only grants critical chance if you hit an enemy hero. They increased it from 4 to 10, max stacks from 4 to 10, and they increased the buff duration from 2 to 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get, I believe it's 3% crit, so 30% crit off of this card.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to continuously hit a hero. I went to use it on Chimera because when you activate Chimera's Q, it's not ability damage. It just makes his auto attack, his basic attack, go faster.
Right.
So you can use it, but it just takes so long to ramp up to get to that 10 that I don't feel like it's useful at all. So maybe you've had a different experience. If you had, let us know.
The only hero I think that would have been good on was the old Twin Blast with his long nitro, his longer lasting nitro.
Yeah, but
like even then,
you got to land.
Still, yeah, exactly.
You got to land them all.
It's an interesting card that maybe future heroes will be good, or as changes continue to come and go, will gain some strength. But right now, I think it's just kind of a gimmicky card. Try it out, have some fun. When it comes to top level viability, it probably you're not gonna see it picked very often.
I put it in and I took it out. Drink the Spirits, reduce the card cost from 6 to 4. Remove the passive requirement. Armivore, primary stat changed from attack speed to energy pen. Increased mana drain per kill from 1.5 to 7. And remove the passive requirement. And then up next is Everglass. They updated the description for clarity. The previous description was on hit ability gain 280 max speed for 6 seconds. It's now for 6 seconds on hit with ability gain 280 max movement speed for 6 seconds.
Yeah.
So it still doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense. I'm just saying. So those are our big changes.
When you hit an ability after you clicking the button, you move faster
for 6 seconds
for that length of time.
So let's talk about what we don't like about patch. I'm gonna go first. We're going to talk about what we don't like about patch 0.29. And what we're going to talk about here is the dramatic increase. This happened with 0.28.
Now, forewarning.
Forewarning.
This is all anecdotal. This is all based upon our games. We don't know how much the games have actually increased on average. Epic hasn't released that information,
right.
But I think a lot of people will agree with what you're about to say. Sorry to interrupt you. Carry on.
No, you're fine. So, with the changes to Rangers and with a lot of the changes coming to the game, I feel like the games have been dramatically longer than they were in 0.27 and 0.28. I've had games that would normally end by the 30-minute mark, back up to 45 minutes, back up to 50 minutes. I just feel like Rangers, with the lack of, we're seeing a lot less Rangers than we've seen. So maybe that's it, and maybe like you said at the beginning, is Rangers just pushed too well, and they need to make casters and fighters do the same thing. But I've had hour-long matches, 4 or 5 hour-long matches this week, and I haven't had those in a very, very, very long time.
So there's a couple things that, when it comes to game length, there's so many different looking at an average game length for a player pool of the amount of people that play this game, right? There's many different layers, many different variables that when balancing, so they talked about that vision 30 to 45 minutes, right? When trying to aim for that vision, this is not something they're going to get overnight. This is not something they're going to get for a while as the game continues to develop, new heroes come in, certain nerfs, certain buffs. In my honest opinion, I believe that there is a correlation to the strength of Rangers and how long games go on.
Before you finish, J-Red just making an excellent point in chat. Base it on the Masters. Games went from 25 to 35 to 55 minutes.
Here's the thing, though. There were significantly less Rangers in those matches than we've seen before in previous patches, because teams realized that Rangers running triple Ranger maybe not be the best composition,
right?
And that's why I talked about specifically to transition into this a little bit later in the show. Right now, I think the sooner Rangers come online, because they are just simply the best heroes at killing towers, no doubt about it. No one can kill, even right now, no one can kill towers as well as Rangers,
right?
Because Rangers' progression would come on so early, and they were simply too strong. They're supposed to be the proverbial weak early game, strong late game. Because they take longer to come online, and they are also conversely weaker in the early parts of the game, that pushing objectives is much more difficult, because they took away the strongest way to do it. So, and also I think a lot of it has to do with right now in pubs, I think.
I lost your webcam.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. That was weird. A lot of it has to do with it is that less people are playing Rangers now. Because they did get nerfed, Rangers aren't as enticing to play, so people want to play the new strong hero Chimera, right? They want to play Grux, they want to play Steel, they want to play other heroes, and I'm seeing much less Ranger picks on my teams and my enemies than what we saw before. I think triple Ranger teams, like if it's triple Ranger team versus a triple Ranger team, I bet those games will probably still be 30 to 45 minutes, because triple Rangers just melt towers. With that being said, the follow-up to that point, and this is an inquiry for you, chat. This is an inquiry for everyone listening on iPad, the audio version on iPad, on iTunes and Stitcher. For you watching on YouTube, whatever medium you're watching, leave a comment. Notch, of course, you as well. Do you think that the other classes should be stronger when it comes to actually taking down objectives? Not pushing away, right? So here's the thing about casters right now. Gideon, Iggy, Howitzer, and Gadget are all really good at clearing waves.
Right.
They can kill those creep real fast.
Right.
Kind of on par with Rangers. Once Rangers are at about 30, 40 points.
Right.
They can clear. They have better wave clear early on. Later into the game, they're about the same. But the difference between Rangers and casters is once casters actually get to the tower, it takes them a long time to kill that friggin' tower, as opposed to Rangers, pow, 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 and it's down. Would you like to see a buff? Now, fighters like Chimera and Grux actually are really good at pushing towers, but they're not ranged, so it's much more dangerous for them to push towers.
Right.
Would you like to see, this is everyone, would you like to see a change in the way that specifically casters are able to kill structures? Would you like to see that imbalance of Rangers having all the power of killing structures and spread it out a little bit over to casters?
I would
and
love to
how
see...
would you do that without making casters too good?
I would love to see casters do extra damage to towers, whether it was ability damage, however they changed it. Yes, I think casters should be able to do more damage to towers. Because come 30-ish minutes into the game, when Rangers come online, casters just drop off. They drop off so hard. Unless you're Iggy, who builds full tank and has a tainted magic, and you don't rely on ability damage. And Howitzer maybe.
Howitzer's the opposite. His ult does an absurd amount of damage if you get hit by that last blow.
So maybe the
60 card points.
Maybe increase the amount of damage, the ability damage casters do on towers. So like if I drop a rift from Gideon onto one, it takes extra damage than it would if I did a basic attack. So I'm not, if I have to actually spend energy or something on it to make it viable.
Yeah, I agree. That would seem reasonable. The answer what is definitely not the answer is nerfing Rangers more. If you nerf Rangers more, they're not going to be picked.
No, you just pick fighters.
I think Rangers are in a very good sweet spot right now. They're, as far as this current meta with this current hero pool, right? Assuming no other changes, I think heroes are in a solid, good spot right now.
Right.
I think casters are the weakest class. And I think the best way to really give them a little more oomph, for the most part, obviously individual heroes need individual balancing, which will come at a different point.
Yes.
Is I really feel like they should be able to split push better. And what I mean split push is not only able to push the lane out quickly, but
if you ignore it, if you ignore me and I get to a tower and you don't rotate, I'm taking your tower down. If I have the energy, I'm taking your tower down, and you have to prioritize that.
If you see a Murdoch is pushing down a lane, which it's very common to see Murdoch split pushing because Long Armor of the Law is global, so they can still do big damage from across the map.
Right.
That's why I think Murdoch most commonly, like when you see a split push thing going on, it's normally the Murdoch doing the pushing.
Murdoch, Twin Blast, yeah.
If you see a Murdoch pushing down a lane with 60 card points,
you rotate over.
You're like, oh, we need to send someone now.
Right.
If it's a Howitzer, you're like, we got some time, it's fine.
Right.
Even though they clear the waves around the same amount of time, right? I think I would really like to see that through whatever mechanism, like whatever way Epic would see fit. For all I know, they already have this addressed in some build like 3 months from now. You know what I mean? Like
3.2.
That will help casters become much more viable, because right now they're the weakest archetype of heroes in the game right now. I don't think anyone's gonna argue with that. I'm not saying they aren't good. I'm just saying out of all of the different archetypes and categories of heroes, they're not as strong.
Casters fall off the fastest. I feel like,
but that would make them stronger. It would make them more impactful in games. It would be more universally picked. There would be more variety in draft compositions. There would be more variety in strategy. There would be more variety overall with just literally that simple change right there through whatever mechanism, through whichever way that they're able to do it.
Right. I agree with the man sitting across from me.
Not physically.
Well, you're right here. I could touch your face. I could touch your face on my monitor. But guys, that's patch 0.29. Those are our thoughts, our feelings, our concerns with patch 0.29. We're about at an hour. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start wrapping this bad boy down. We're going to start turning the lights off. I'm going to take my pants off. Shane's probably going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to say goodbye. I want to say thank you to everybody who's listening to us, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. If you catch us in podcast format, please head over to one of those websites. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us any sort of review. 1 to 5, we don't care. We want to hear the criticism. We always want to be better. If you guys want, you can follow us on Twitter at Voices of Agora. You can get all the updates on the next time we record live. You can talk about know when our next tournament is being run. Agora's Rising 8 will happen next weekend, so on the 6th. The announcement is over on Reddit. That's correct, because we have this weekend off. What? We have got a big surprise coming on August 2nd for the Paragon Master Finals. We are excited about this one. We're not going to tell you other than that. You're going to have to watch to find out.
Wait, what'd you say?
Paragon Master Finals? Big surprise.
Oh yeah, there's a
Big
not a big
surprise.
there's a
It's
cool
a-
thing that's happening that will be that a lot of people will think is really cool.
It's a surprise.
Yes,
Don't ruin this for me.
it's really cool.
Don't ruin this for me. It's a surprise.
It's really really cool.
You guys can
The more I
also
think about it, the more I get hyped about it, and I'm really excited about it.
you can follow us on Facebook at Voices of Agora. If you guys have any words of wisdom, you want to be a guest on the show, you've got some cool YouTube videos, you think, man, I would like to talk to these guys and I have some cool insight, send us an email, agorasvoice@gmail.com. Shane, tell these beautiful people where they can find you on the internet, my friend.
Contrary to what the overlay says,
Contrary to what the overlay says.
twitch.tv/ITG Shane Lynch,
Yeah?
twitter.com/ITG Shane Lynch. I also have a Facebook account as well, Shane Lynch. If you want to follow me there, I don't use it very much. I think Facebook, like I say this all the time, Facebook's becoming the new MySpace. Maybe not, probably not. That may be an exaggeration. That's an exaggeration. I
Little bit.
retract the little previous statement.
Billion people a day log on to that. Just keep that in mind.
Google's becoming the next Yahoo.
Oh, God.
League is becoming the new Han, and I actually stand by that statement. Meet me there. I stream Monday through Friday, noon to 3. Those hours might be changing, but the days will be staying the same. The hours may change, and I also stream randomly outside of those hours as well. So my stream's been getting really good support. Not quite as much as yours, man. Holy cow!
Woo!
But my streams, I've been gaining a lot of steam, and my stream is a place where I want people to come and have a good time, unapologetically be themselves, not judgmental zone. It's a non-judge-free zone. People who are judgmental and douchebags, I ban people so fast in my chat, guys. You have no idea. The moment someone's a douche, they're gone.
He does.
So if you guys want to have a good time, AMA, Ask Chat. If you're having a hard time, if you're having a bad day, the goal of my stream is to be an escape from the stresses of reality so we can have a good time together. So I want to see you guys there. Thank you.
Wow. As for me, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, you can find me on Twitch 6 nights a week, twitch.tv/anothernotch, on Twitter at Notch Plays Games. You can find me on Facebook, Another Notch Gaming. For any of these VODs to Voices of Agora, Agora's Rising, you guys can find those on the YouTube channel, Another Notch Gaming. Thank you guys, as always, for being a part of this community, part of this watching and supporting Paragon. We love you, each and every single one of you. I'm about to hit you with that pretty awesome outro. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back with bonus time in just a minute.
After show.